Hello and welcome to my third day of riding in the Dolomites. Seriously, we got so lucky with the weather because, as you can tell, it was looking as if it was going to rain, but it didn't. Like seriously, so lucky. You can never know for sure when you're booking a vacation what kind of weather it was going to be, but I'm so glad that the weather stayed mostly dry and also not too hot. Because, riding a motorcycle, you gotta wear gear to be safe, and it's just not very nice if it's like super hot. But also, if it gets rainy, then even if it's not actually slippery, you're going to fear slipperiness. I mean, I think most motorcycle riders are going to recognize that. The thought of it maybe being slippery just sort of takes a little bit of the fun out of it, to me at least. But yeah, anyway, today was a day of many technical roads, lots of mountain passes. Spoiler alert, the final day in the Dolomites was literally a route with almost only mountain passes. It was very cool. But this route was also quite technical. Here I got sort of startled by how sharp the turn in the... You can't really tell on camera, but the turn in the tunnel was pretty dang sharp. We're not used to that in the Netherlands. We don't have tunnels with such sharp corners in it. We're gonna encounter more of those though. But yeah, anyway, lots of technical corners, and as you can tell, as the beginning of the day, I'm always a little bit rusty. Now keep in mind, I particularly try to not keep up with the others, because otherwise I am going to wind up being too close to them, and then you can easily read their license plate, and out of politeness I'll have to edit out their license plate, and it's a lot of extra effort. So if I just make sure that they're not in my view in the first place, it saves me a lot of time editing. But anyway, at the beginning of the day, I'm always a little bit rusty. Also, this was the day that I found out that I actually picked a difficult motorcycle. And people had always told me this. For some reason, I didn't know that because, well, Leon is my first motorcycle. My only other experience with motorcycles is the lesson motorcycle that I used when I, had the driving lessons. And also one time he was in for maintenance and they let me borrow a Kawasaki Versys. That's literally my only other experience with a motorcycle, and that's a Kawasaki I only rode to work and back home and then back to the garage. So that was not very far. So I had no idea that I happened to choose a apparently difficult motorcycle for this kind of trip. And what's difficult about him is that he's not technically made for fast cornering. He can do it, but you gotta know him. It's a very good motorcycle. His heaviest point is very low, so his balance is amazing. You just gotta know him, and what you will hopefully, I notice it when I look at it, I hope you'll notice as well, that throughout the day I keep going faster and smoother just because I stopped trying to ride him like a sports bike. He's not made to go very fast. Like here, I try to go pretty fast in first gear. He's just not made for that, because at some point he is going to just, stop going faster in first gear and make a whole lot of noise. But yeah, that's not particularly useful because he's not going to speed up anymore. Whereas if I just gear up, he can be super fast. But it's way different behavior because it's just a way different type of motorcycle, and this is really... Yeah, this is the day of the trip where I really felt that, when I really learned that. Like, because some people, if you tell them something, they believe it. Yeah, I'm the sort of person that, imagine I was so much fun as a child, not. But I have to experience something to believe it, because if you're just going to tell me something, I'm not going to believe it. Today I really did feel that I need to ride him differently than a sports bike, and then I can easily keep up with the others. I just really had to, I don't know, I had to start believing that, And at first I was always like, it's just my skill level, I'm just too new at this. It's not that, I just have a bike that needs to be treated differently. And that's fine. And here we have some more of the technical turns. I love practicing hairpins. They're so much fun. And one thing that I actually did get compliments on is the steering, like compliments from the group that I rode with. Because he is very easy to, well, okay, gotta put it this way. To me, he's easy because he's the only bike I know so well. He's quite easy to push through a corner like that, just because you don't need to like push him. You can't just throw him in a corner and just push him down, but he'll go exactly where you want him to go if you just know him. He's just, I love my motorcycle. I literally have never, even for a moment, regretted choosing this particular motorcycle. Because I just love him that much. He's gorgeous and he rides like a freaking dream. Even if people say that he's more difficult in these sort of situations, I just love him so much. Like, he is perfect to me. Do I sound like I'm mildly in love with my motorcycle? Yes, maybe. Anyway, let's move on. What I was trying to say is what I really like about making tight corners with this bike is you can make him do a freaking V-turn. You know, a U-turn? You can make him do a V-turn. He will not stall. He will not get jumpy if you're in a low RPM. Like, he'll just do it. He'll keep running smoothly even if you go like 3 kilometers per hour. He'll still be able to just go through a corner and then you can speed up and he is perfectly fine. Like, you have perfect control with this motorcycle at any speed, and that is what I love about him. It's one of the many things that I love about him. But yeah, throughout this day, I just kept getting smoother and smoother with it and just build up this rhythm of like slowing down for the corner, taking the corner, controlled, and then speeding up and gearing up. So I could keep up with the others, not too close, because otherwise, you know, extra effort at editing. But yeah, I really enjoyed today. Like, the beginning of the day was a little bit like stumbling and like, you know, trying to get into it, and then it just clicked and it's just, it was so nice. So yeah, really had a lot of fun today, and also obviously like the views are so freaking gorgeous. It's like, wow, if I could just spend like every day riding there, okay, maybe I would get bored eventually, maybe not though. I spent an entire week riding through these mountains. I did not get bored. Like, if you ride motorcycles and you have a little bit of experience with mountains, I really recommend going to the Dolomites. I do recommend at least practicing in like Germany and other countries that have less high mountains, I suppose, in a way. Just because I feel like you'll have more fun if you have practiced beforehand than if you immediately go to the most technically difficult routes. Because nobody wants to stumble through every hairpin corner, nobody wants to be terrified on the way down, nobody wants to, you know, be that person who almost drops their bike 5 times and then actually drops it the 6th time. Because that's not fun for yourself. You know, like, it's not fun for yourself. It's fun when it goes at least relatively smoothly and you can feel yourself improving. But I do strongly recommend just going for, if you're a beginner, to go for easier mountains first, I guess. That's what I did. I started out at the Mosel region in Germany. Then I went to Luxembourg and now this. And I'm very much still learning. But because I already went to Germany and to Luxembourg, I feel, you know, reasonably confident on these mountains and in these hairpins at the very steep angles. You really can't tell on camera how steep some of these are. But because I have some confidence and I sort of theoretically know what I'm doing, that's why it is so much fun. Oh, also one thing I want to mention as well, what I noticed with this motorcycle, I have to pull my inner foot up on the way up at the mountains, because otherwise the foot peg is going to hit the ground and my foot is going to hit the ground and I'll startle. So that's another thing. He's not made to angle down too far. But again, he can, if you just, you know, keep in mind that you gotta treat him a little bit differently.
rifornirsi all'erogatore sempre.